Happy Monday, still fun day, Jared Smith. Welcome on into Let's Bet It. There's a lot to talk about because I honestly could not sleep last night. I want week 18 every single year. I want a week 19, to be honest with you. Yesterday was wild. That Raiders Chargers game to end it all out. Are you kidding me? Like, what
Oh,
a way. What a way to end the regular football season.
yeah, I was it was like going into battle yesterday. Risked a ton of units, had a ton of contract incentive props. We had teasers and best bets, and you hit an unbelievable underdog with the Jags. You didn't sprinkle it money line for like the first time all season, but that was an incredible call by you. And just in general, the overall I guess motivation in week 18, we were going into the week thinking that only a handful of teams were going to really give it their all. The early slate, it started very fast. Once the Jaguars took that lead, then all of a sudden news started seeping through to Pittsburgh and Baltimore, and you saw that game intensity really ratchet up. And then in the 4 o'clock window, there were 6 games, and every single one of them had some nuance or a playoff seeding or, a team trying to jump this team on the line. That Arizona-LA game or that Arizona-Seattle game was great. The LA-San Francisco game was doubly great. And then, of course, the nightcap. I don't know what to say about that game. We almost had the crazy tie scenario. There was a timeout called by Brandon Staley that was very strange. And just the overall agenda of the league was really strong yesterday. It was week 18. It was the best week 18 ever, right? The first week 18. It certainly won't be the last. Next year, it's got a high bar to live up to.
That was honestly so incredible. I want an extra week now. I want a week 19. I want 18 regular season games. Give me more. I was thinking last night watching that Raiders-Chargers game, and I'm like, I really want this game to end right now, but I also really want to keep this game going. Like, I didn't know what I wanted. I was just sitting there. Oh, man, what a way to end the week. And my Lions get a win. So finally, my Lions money line that I sprinkle every single week, it felt really good yesterday. We're going to talk about it because you had a massive day yesterday. We'll get to that with our Monday morning therapy. But first, we have Market Correction Monday. Then we're talking about the national championship game. So just when we come off week 18, guess what? We have another exciting game to have Monday still fun day, as Jim Monos would say. You have a college basketball prediction. We'll go over a little bit of line movement in the NBA as well. And then we can't end without our Pickswise 3-star play of the day and our best bets of the day. So without further ado, Jared Smith, let's get into it. Let's bet it. Market Correction Monday. We're going to preface this by saying you don't really see much value at this point in the futures markets, right?
Correct. There were some astronomical moves yesterday with teams that thought they were out of it, with teams that didn't necessarily think they were going to have a good position in the playoffs. And then all of a sudden it kind of slingshots into what is now a very thin market in the NFL futures world. If you like an underdog,
Raiders, right?
Yeah, the Raiders is I would say the biggest one. I think the Steelers and the Raiders were the two biggest movers yesterday. I'd say the Steelers were slightly bigger just because they really thought they were out the entire day until, the Jaguars actually did win that game. And then, of course, they had to get a non-tie in the late game. So the Steelers saw a huge move from 550 to 1 to now 90 to 1. Now, in terms of the probability of them winning the Super Bowl, still very small and very short. But the number move is pretty significant. Raiders go from 110 to 1 to 55 to 1 on FanDuel. And the reason why, in my opinion, those numbers don't hold a ton of, value is because I think you can match that output by just betting them on the money line this week, rolling that over, betting them on the money line next week, rolling that over, betting them on the money line in the conference championship game, and you get the idea, so on and so forth. So in my opinion, that is the best way to play underdogs at this stage of the season. And we've talked about favorites. There's no value in the favorites. They suck the value out of the favorites way before this week. We've been talking about that for the last 6 weeks or so with teams like the Packers and the Chiefs, even the Titans now that go from 12 to 1 to 8 to 1 after they clinched the bye yesterday. Even that number doesn't have any value because, again, the Titans are going to be an underdog likely at some point either in the conference championship game or the Super Bowl, and that's when you can capture a little bit more value there. So the futures market is a fun observation at this stage, but I would not be risking my money in it.
550 to 1 odds to 90 to 1 odds for the Steelers, though. Props to Mike Tomlin. Never finished a season under 500. Big Ben gets another run at it, even though I don't think that he's going to be able to get anything done. Could you imagine being one of those Steelers players or a Steelers fan last night watching that game? Do you think they were sweating a little bit?
Yeah.
I kind of wanted the Raiders to miss that field goal at purpose.
You wanted the tie? I mean, the chaos theory would have been fun. There were a lot of people that made money on the regulation tie last night. I saw some guy at Wynn made $115,000 on $1,000 parlay. Jags money line, regulation tie. Can you imagine making $115,000 on a game last night?
Casual. Just a casual one.
Casual. I wouldn't show up for work today, that's for sure.
Then that last Chargers drive, they completed that last Chargers drive when they had completed they were able to convert on a ton of fourth downs. Come on now. Come on.
You could break that game down 100 ways from Sunday, literally, from Sunday. And you could have identified one play in a million different scenarios. On one drive, one play. On another drive, one play. One play goes different in a handful of drives, and the scenarios just get totally whacked. Yeah. The Chargers, I think they went 6 of 7 on fourth downs, and then the one they didn't get was the 4th and 1 at their own 20.
Yes.
Which people went nuts over. And ironically enough, that fourth down didn't even really impact the game because the Raiders only kicked the field goal, and the Chargers got the 2-point conversion on the next drive that kind of nullified it. So that fourth down they didn't get didn't even really impact the game. It was there was so much. We could literally spend a whole show talking about just that game. It was that wild.
Yeah. And then you look at the Niners going from 31 to 21 to 21.
How about Jimmy G?
31 to 1 to 21 to 1. That's a lot of ones that I was like, wait a second. I'm listening to myself saying that in my head. Came back from a 17-0 deficit, force overtime, take the game against the Rams.
Wow.
Make the playoffs. Jimmy G playing with one thumb. I mean,
what a drive. That last drive, they need to go, 85 yards, 80 yards. And there was a minute left, no timeouts. And Deebo Samuel, just tip your cap to that gentleman. What a drive. That was Jimmy G's. And I know he's played in a Super Bowl before. I would say that was his defining moment of his career right there. Now, we'll see what they do with it this week. I've already seen some movement towards Dallas in that game from 2.5 to 3, 3.5 now. Mm-hmm. But I kind of like the Niners in that spot.
I like the Niners in that spot too, actually.
We'll talk about it more later this week, I'm sure.
I know. And then we have the Titans moving from 12 to 1 to 8 to 1 odds. They held off the Texans, finished top of the AFC. If you would have asked me at the beginning of the season who's going to finish at the top of the AFC, I probably wouldn't have said the Titans, right? They get the weekend off now.
Yeah, and frankly, if you've been following the Back to the Futures column this year, you should be sitting on a Chiefs and a Titans ticket right now. Titans to win the AFC at around 8 or 9 to 1, and the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl and the AFC. And if the gambling and the football gods are favorable for us, we will get a Titans-Chiefs AFC Championship game, which would be a rematch of a couple of years ago. And we will be sitting very pretty. We won't even have to bet that game. We'll just be sitting and hoping and we're waiting to see who moves on. And that's the beauty of the futures market. If you can play it, and I talked to, some people this week about it, the way that I played it this season, which was mid-season futures, slowly investing in kind of like drip, like a dividend reinvestment in the finance world. And now we're positioned. I like to think I'm positioned as well as I possibly could be. I am so excited for the playoffs. The playoffs are, if yesterday and last night was any indication, the playoffs are going to be insane. Absolutely insane.
It is going to be wild, absolutely wild. Okay, let's do Monday morning therapy for a second, because usually, Jared, for me, it's a negative therapy. Today, it's a positive therapy. But before we get into it, I just want to make a quick note. Jared is up 20.5 units on Sunday player props. You had a day yesterday, Jared. So congratulations to you. And then tooting my own horn, 9-0.
You deserve to be tooted. You deserve to toot.
So it's really good for the LVI team. I'm rooting for you. You're rooting for me. But 20.5 units, man, on Sunday props.
Contract incentives, yo. They are a thing. We were talking about it all week. Last year, we went absolutely bananas. I unearthed this gem, which was these players want to get paid.
Yes.
Honestly, there are no sure things in gambling. That is the closest thing to a sure thing you are going to find. Marvin Jones was the perfect example yesterday. He needed 4 receptions for his payday. On the first drive of the game, he had 3. If you think these guys don't want their money and they are not going to the coaches and the quarterback and saying, you need to throw me the ball, I need 4 receptions. It's the closest thing to a lock as you will find in gambling. And,
you think it's one of those things like these players are like, hey, you throw me the ball, I get my money, you get a
yes,
Rolex, something
yes.
like that? Like,
Stephon Diggs, the same thing. In the first half, he got his receptions prop. Gronk, it needed till the second half, but he got there. Tyler Lockett, he needed 2 touchdowns for $1.2 million. That was the one that I'm proud of the most because that was tough to find. I had to dig through multiple tweets and articles about his contract to find out if there was an or an and in his incentive bonuses because he had already hit yards and receptions, and it was the touchdowns that was the escalator that really turned it into a $1.2 million payday. And as you know, the touchdown props are the ones that are the most lucrative. The 2 touchdown prop for Tyler Lockett, we made 20 units yesterday. 16 of it was on that one prop. You know, it was 16-1 for him to score twice, and he scored twice in the first quarter. Didn't even wait till the second half. It was the first half. Those props, it is my favorite. Week 18, the last day of the regular season, hands down my favorite day of NFL betting of the year. I should only bet on that day. No other days.
No other days.
No other days.
I'm taking 300.
Taking all the other weeks off.
I only need one, baby. Only need one.
Yeah, I'll take it. 20 units is a good season for most bettors. And
Jared
that was
now.
That's it. Done.
He's retired. He's done. Okay, Monday morning therapy, though. We always talk about the team that's either driving us nuts or we're really excited about. It's either really high or really low. You're talking about the Giants today.
The Giants they're an absolute train wreck.
Okay.
They ran and I didn't even bet on them yesterday. Actually, I bet against them, and it was Mark Zeno's play of the day. It was Washington. They ran a QB sneak on 3rd and 9 from their own 4-yard line. And then they ran another draw later in the game on 3rd and 8 from their own 20. And the fans in New York here, or in New Jersey, I guess, we deserve better. I'm not even a Giants fan. I'm speaking like we deserve better. And then the worst thing is
I'm not even a Giants fan.
I'm a Giants fan.
Better.
Jets fan. The worst thing is we woke up this morning, Nagy fired, Zimmer fired, everyone gets fired, Brian Flores gets fired with the Dolphins. Somehow Joe Judge still has a job. If you're a Giants fan, like, is Dave Gettleman awake? Like, what are the Maras doing? Like, it's pathetic how bad that organization has sunk. And I don't know what the answer is, but I can tell you what it's not. It's not Joe Judge. That's not the answer. And I hope that they make a move at some point, but it's not looking like it.
Oprah basically came out and fired everyone. You get fired, and
everyone got fired,
and you get fired. You want to know who I love right now, though? Well, actually, I'll just really quickly touch on the Colts. All they had to do is win once in the last 2 weeks. They couldn't beat the Raiders. Okay, that's acceptable. The Jags. Are you kidding? I mean, I'm happy that I won my bet, but I was getting 15.5 points with that bet. I didn't need them to win the game. I just needed them to cover the spread. The Colts couldn't get it done. That's crazy. But someone I do love and something that I'm really excited about next season is the Lions. I love Dan Campbell more than anything in the world. I would run through a wall for that dude. He has this Lions team, which is lacking talent, to be quite frank with you, especially after all of the injuries this season. He has them playing so freaking hard. I just love the energy that he's bringing this franchise right now. The Lions had 2 trick plays. How much fun to watch. The franchise is now undefeated in week 18.
As a Lions fan,
I just think that they're building a really strong foundation to head into next season, just in terms of mentality and work ethic, something that they didn't necessarily have in the last few years and basically my entire existence watching them play. So
it's funny because it's like the juxtaposition. Like the Giants and the Lions are in the same position as a franchise, losing, difficult spot. But look at how much more fun and more engaging the Lions are than the Giants, who are running quarterback sneaks and draws on 3rd and 8. And the Lions are running reverse passes, fake punts. I don't want to call it class, but it's kind of like they know how to lose in style. Like, at least the Lions are going down swinging, where the Giants are just like, it's apathetic. It's
and a majority of the Lions' losses I know a majority of the Lions' losses have come by basically one score at the end of the
They
end of the game.
fought
But
their
that's just
asses
typical
off
Lions.
this year.
I
They
know.
are the most fun team I've ever watched that had no chance of ever making the playoffs, like ever. It's incredible.
I know. Okay, so we were going to get into our early leans with NFL. We'll get there after, but I really want to bring in SuperBook Oddsmaker Arthur DiCesare. He's going to join us to chat about the national championship game, a big game that we have going on tonight, a rematch of the SEC championship game. Arthur, first of all, how the heck are you doing? It's been a crazy weekend. It's going to be another fun night tonight.
Yeah, good morning, guys. It's a pleasure to be here. Big game tonight, so it should be a lot of fun. We should have a very, very big handle on the game. And it should be a lot of fun, kind of roll back in, finish the weekend with the Saturday games and the Sunday games right into this Monday game. So very much looking forward to it.
For you, yesterday, with all of the craziness that was going on in the NFL, I mean, what was that like for you watching it? Because you're the one that's creating a lot of these odds for the sports books.
It was an incredible day. And obviously the Sunday night game with all the drama and Vegas being the home team.
All the drama.
It was. I'll say this. There were a lot of oohs and ahs, and people couldn't believe what was going on in the sportsbook. It was a lot of fun. That's why we do what we do. That's why we love this. That's why sports is the best. That's why gambling in sports is the best. So it was a fun night, and there was a lot of second guessing and a lot of people shaking their heads when they were leaving the sportsbook, or even when they were coming to cash their tickets at the window, being like, "I can't believe what I just saw." It was a lot of fun.
Can you imagine watching sports and not betting on it? I certainly can't. But Arthur, I know that the tie was of particular importance and of relevance to the sports books last night. We all read the stories. We all read the tweets about how much, money was exposed to the tie last night. My question is, I guess jovial in a sense, but also serious. Was someone getting fired if that game ended in a tie last night? Like, is that how much money the books would have lost if that game actually ended in a tie and the sports books had to pony up the dough? What was it, like millions of dollars were at stake if that game actually ended in a tie?
Yeah. No, I don't think anyone was getting fired, but it was – there would have been some interesting discussions, let's just say that this morning. I think there would have been some bad looks, some eye rolling, a lot of that type of stuff, but – definitely no firing. Listen, we understand when we book these games, or if you're a bettor, we understand this is a gamble. It's the way it goes. Obviously, on each side, everyone looks to find their edge, but in the end, it is still a gamble.
Yeah. Okay, I want to get into tonight because a national champion will be crowned. I'm just gonna make this drama because yesterday was such drama.
She's so full of drama.
Will
Arthur. Just give
Alabama
her her moment.
win its second consecutive natty title, or will Georgia will Georgia claim the crown for the first time in 4 decades? Dun dun dun. It's going to be really exciting. My question for you is, why hasn't this line really moved all week?
It's a great question. I think when you have to look at it, you kind of have to look at where it started. When we opened the game Georgia -1. We did that in the second half of the Georgia-Michigan game. Obviously, Alabama was already in. Georgia was completely owning Michigan at that point, basically up 3-4 touchdowns. So we felt comfortable opening the game, Georgia -1, total of 51. Instantly, people bet Georgia. They're not a public play in the beginning. When sharps get in early, they get in. They're the first ones to get in. They're the first ones to set the movement, set the line, set the market. So they jumped on Georgia right away. Game basically got to 3 pretty quickly, and it did stay there. We did get to 2.5 for a little bit yesterday, but we are now back at 3. I don't think there was any question that once we got to the 2.5 or 3, there was going to be plenty of buyback on Alabama. Alabama is a very public team. We understand that, especially when they're getting points. If you're going to give people a chance to get Alabama with points, people are going to take it. But I don't want to say it's a divide of sharp and public players on either side, but the sharp players who got Georgia under the field goal feel great about it. And there's been a lot of money come in on the Alabama money line because people, when it was 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, even 3, felt, let's take a chance with +125, +130. We have Alabama +132 on the money line. You just don't see it a lot. Obviously, they were that way in the national or in the SEC championship game, but when you give people a chance to get plus money with Alabama, there's going to be a lot of plus money come in on that. So it's been a pretty good divide so far on that end.
I think and this might be a little in the weeds, but I think it's noteworthy because of Alabama. So usually, and you know this, Arthur, you make these lines every day. When a team's favored by 3, minus 150 is kind of the favorite money line. But with Georgia, because of all of the Alabama money that is coming in on the Alabama money line, it is kind of depressing the Georgia money line odds a bit, where at minus 3, minus 2.5, you're getting a slight discount on the money line at around minus 135, minus 140, as you would the spread, because of all of the overwhelming money that's coming in on Alabama. It's like a supply and demand situation. So in my eyes, if you like Georgia, I think it makes more sense to lay that extra 25, 30, 35 cents on the money line, because you are getting a discount due to all of that Alabama money flooding the market.
Jared, there's no doubt about it. Georgia right now for us is minus 142. If you're going to get involved in the game, and like you say, you do like Georgia, and you're going to lay the traditional minus 110, I understand for bettors who do units, or, they really are sitting there and figuring out, okay, I stick to a certain plan. Sometimes you have to fire. Sometimes you have to move the extra 25 or 30 cents because you just got to take the points out of it.
It's a good bet, because you're getting, usually it should be minus 150 or minus 160 in a traditional 3-point spread.
Correct. And like you said, the reason we don't want to do that is because then we'd be looking at Alabama at plus 135, plus 140.
And then you're going to, exactly.
Yeah, we just don't want to get there. I mean, we took significant money on Alabama plus 125. So people were happy to get them at plus 125. Now it's plus 132. It was plus 130. Basically yesterday it moved up, just ticked up a little bit. So people are going to be even more excited to get that extra value. I think the total's pretty interesting too. We opened it at 51. It's now 52.5. There's been nothing but a flood of over money, basically 75% to the over. Ooh. I think when people looked at that SEC title game, they figured it would be that traditional SEC grind
slobber
it out.
knocker.
Yeah, feel each other out. Maybe 21-17, 24-21.
Nope.
And, the game basically almost got to 70 points. I believe it was 41-24. So I'm more apt to think it could probably go under in this one because it's a real championship feel. Not that the SEC wasn't, and SEC championship game had a lot of importance, probably more importance to Alabama. Georgia was in regardless of win or loss in that game. So, you're going to be going against the public. Everyone taking the over and it moving 1.5. You're probably going to get some value now on the under in that game.
Makes sense.
This game is super interesting to me because it is the first time that two teams who are going up against each other in the championship have already gone head-to-head earlier in the same season. That's never happened before. So it was kind of interesting to see, their matchup before in the SEC championship game. Both teams were able to feel each other out, and now we're seeing them play again, 3-4 weeks later. For you as a sports book, what is SuperBook's, biggest liability in tonight's game, knowing the factors that are going into it?
Yeah, Lauren, when we actually look at the liability, our biggest liability right now is in the future markets with Georgia.
Yeah.
Georgia had 7-8 to 1 to win the title. Now, Georgia's in the last 5 years at least been one of those top echelon teams. Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma always takes a lot of money. Michigan takes money. Ohio State takes money. The traditional teams. But at 7-8 to 1, when you basically got that at the beginning of the year, and I understand Georgia lost. Georgia was the best team the entire year.
Yeah.
Alabama had some parts during the year when they lost to A&M. They did not look good against Auburn in the Iron Bowl, and obviously that rolled into the SEC title game. That's why that spread got to 6.5. So give credit to Georgia. They have been the best team all year, and with their liability sitting at 7-8 to 1 to win the title, that is some pretty significant liability for us in the future book.
Yeah. There's two things that jump out to me about this game that push me to Georgia's side. The first is the secondary situation for Alabama, which is, frankly dire. Josh Jobe, their top corner, out with turf toe. Second string corner, Jalen Armour-Davis dealing with a hip injury. It could be a third stringer, which is a freshman, Kool-Aid McKistry, great name, but I don't know how good he is. Tremendous name. But I don't know how good he's going to be defending this Georgia passing offense, which has looked okay. Even in the game against Bama, they still looked okay. And then the other corner is a JUCO transfer. So to me, the secondary for Georgia is interesting, or for Alabama is interesting, and I think that speaks to the over a little bit. But on Alabama's offense, no John Mechie, who had almost 100 yards and a touchdown in the first half of that game against Georgia a few weeks ago. So I do think that there are some strategic advantages for Georgia in this game that maybe they didn't have in the SEC title. I think Alabama will be a little weak in the secondary, and I think their offense on the outside might not be as explosive. How does that factor into the handicap tonight, Arthur?
It definitely does. And Jared, you know, I have felt ever since we knew we were getting this game, I've gone back and forth. That, you know, right away I said, you're giving Alabama points. There's no way I can't take the 3 points. I can't take the plus money. I also feel this way, and I felt this way all year about Alabama. This isn't, and it's crazy to say this because Alabama's in the title game. This isn't like that vintage Alabama team.
No.
You know what I mean? This defense doesn't have, and they could in a couple of years, they don't have 4 to 6 first-round picks. I understand the quarterback is the Heisman Trophy winner. He's still a young kid. If like Georgia's not going to get it done this year, when are they going to get it done? Like
Georgia's got the better defense in this game. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
They do, and like I said, they have been the best team all year.
Yeah,
they tripped up against the best opponent they play. I understand that. But in my mind, it's like if Georgia doesn't take care of business this year, like when are they ever going to do it? I've now started to more lean towards Georgia and just felt Georgia was the right side.
Me too.
And once again, I'm not going to be shocked either way. I'm really not. But I do think all those injuries do come into factor. You know, the motivation and, you know, revenge, blah, blah, blah. You don't need motivation in a national championship game. Kirby Smart doesn't need motivation against Nick Saban. These guys want to win. It doesn't matter if I'm coaching Alabama tonight. Kirby Smart wants to win the game. He wants to win a national championship. So you could throw all that type of stuff out. I've started to lean Georgia too.
Yeah. That's literally all Georgia has to do is do what they did against my alma mater, Michigan. That's all that they have.
I knew we were going to get one alma mater reference in this handicap, Arthur.
I mean, I'm still stewing.
I win my bet today.
I'm still stewing about that game.
They had no.
Lauren, hold on. You guys
was announced.
No, you guys had a great year, though. You got to be extremely proud of Michigan. You have to be, unless you ran into a juggernaut. Yeah, I mean, you know,
in the words of Ricky Bobby. In the words of Ricky Bobby, if you ain't first, you're last, my friend. So
That's
you know what? It's okay.
Well, now you got to worry about Harbaugh going to the NFL.
Oh, he's going to the Dolphins.
No chance.
Why else would they fire Brian Flores?
I'm a Giant fan. Please fire Joe Judge.
Can you believe that everybody got fired today except Joe Judge?
The Giants.
Who did this guy talk to? He's got like ins with the kingpin in New York City.
The Mayer family is clearly asleep this morning. We know that.
Or Dave Gettleman, or both, I guess.
Oh, please, Dave Gettleman should go too.
We just had our therapy session with the Giants.
I'm a Giants fan. I need some therapy. This was a brutal season.
Arthur, please lay it on us if you want to be a part of Monday morning therapy.
Monday morning therapy is a thing, yes, Arthur. Please. Go ahead, let it loose. It's a safe space.
That's incredible. Okay, so now that we're kind of back on the NFL, let's talk about. I mean, some of these lines have opened for these playoff games coming into this weekend. For you, when you're looking at some of these games, like I know I have my early leans. I really like the Bucks laying the points against the Eagles. Jared, you like that in a teaser spot, right? I don't know, Arthur. When you're looking at some of these games that are coming up, when you're making the odds, like what factors into that for the NFL now?
Well, when we look at that, we stick to our power ratings. You know, we've done 18 weeks of this. There's nothing that's going to surprise us. We know these teams. We've been on these teams since July, August, basically. So
crazy.
When you look at the lines, Jared, I totally agree. We talked about this when I was on the show a couple of weeks ago. The fact that the Tampa game isn't 9.5, or even higher.
It's going to get to 9.
Yeah,
it's going.
They're going to blow through that teaser number.
I already locked it in at 8.5.
It is, and that's the thing, right? If you've isolated Tampa and can find another spot, maybe even you get involved in the game tonight, you know, and you can tease Tampa and, you know, whoever you like tonight. I mean, I don't normally like taking Georgia and going through the 0, but maybe if you like Alabama, you make them 10 and then
It's not
You know, you
bad.
make Tampa -1.5. I think the interesting one and the one that shocked me when we opened it as low as we did was Dallas.
Yeah, that's the one I teased.
Yeah.
I went Niners to 9 and then Bucks to 1.5. I actually did get a little piece of that late last night. I got a little gun trigger happy. And I think that's the one that stood out to me because it feels like you guys are you think the Niners are live in this game based on that line.
We do, and I'll say this about the 49ers. The 49ers have been, I'm going to throw the Colts in there and the Eagles in there. Those were the three teams this year that were heavy sharp teams.
Yeah.
The sharp bettors love those teams the entire year. The 49ers are one of those teams. Even yesterday, great comeback by them being down 17-0. When that game opened 6, basically closes at 4, that was nothing but sharp money. And we usually take decent Ram money being in Vegas and we get the flood of LA people.
Yeah.
So we get decent Ram money, but it couldn't stop what we get for the Niner money because we get some public Niner money too because the Niners, you know, with their great run in the 80s have been around and have a big fan base. But the sharp money that comes in on the Niners, I think we're protecting ourselves a little bit there.
Yeah.
Now, we know we're going to get Cowboy money because it's the Cowboys. But the fact that that's not more 4.5,
I agree,
shows you the respect we have for the Niners and the respect we have for the sharp bettors who will bet the Niners.
Such a great point. The teasers in the playoffs are a thing.
Yes.
And the teaser protection numbers, as we have discussed, you will not see that Bucks line stay at 9 for long. It will either go to one side and you'll get Eagles money and it'll go back to 8, 7.5, 8, or it'll get to double digits and it'll protect you from moving from 9 to 3 or 8.5 to 2.5. That's been the MO all year. And you're right, Artie. I think you guys are relying a lot on what you saw in the regular season to carry you through to the postseason. Yeah. That's why you're making that Niners line so short. But what it's doing is it's going to mean Dallas is probably going to be the highest bet team of the week. At least that, you know, I know it's only Monday, but that's my prediction. Dallas is going to have the most chalk all week on public money, right?
I don't disagree. I also think you just factor in it's the Cowboys.
Yeah.
The Cowboys, obviously, you know, taking out what I just said about the Niners and all the sharp money, there are more public bettors than sharp bettors.
100%.
You know, the guys and the girls who come into town this weekend for this wonderful wild card weekend, you know, they're going to have their little Emmitt Smith jerseys on and their Troy Aikman jerseys on, and they're going to want to bet the Cowboys. They're not going to worry.
America's team.
7. I mean, they're not.
Their little Emmitt Smith jerseys on.
They're just not going to do it. You know, that's how it goes. It's
100%.
Just, it's the way it is, and that's okay. Listen, we're set up to say, let's just take money on both sides and we'll take our 10% and move on.
100%.
That's how we always look at it. But also,
I'd be shocked if that line moves too soon. I think if it goes to 3.5, I bet it gets bought down from 3.5. To me, the 3.5 is going to be where the sharps will jump on San Francisco very quickly this week.
100%. They have not wanted to get involved yet because I think they're waiting. I think
they're scared. They're like, wait a minute, you're dropping 3.
I
thought
the
that
best
was
numbers
be 4 or
too.
5.
You know that, and that half a point or that full point, if it gets to 3.5, ever got to 4, forget it. They're jumping all over that because
forget about it.
It's the clearest number they can get. And a half a point in this industry and in this, especially in the NFL, everything ends on 3. So if they can get 3.5, they know it. Jared, I'm with you. I love it. I love the Niners and tees. We talked, you know, via text yesterday.
Yeah.
I had the Cardinals and the Niners and the tees. Didn't work out, but I love the Niners and the tees yesterday. I think the Niners are very live in the teaser this week as well.
Arthur, it's been such a pleasure having you on.
Tremendous stuff, bud.
Truly, this is such a great insight coming from someone who's plug and play in the numbers. So we really, really appreciate it. Arthur DiCesare, SuperBook Oddsmaker. Good luck tonight with your bets too on the national championship game.
Go Georgia.
Go Dogs. Woo.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. It was a pleasure. We'll talk soon.
Great stuff, bud.
Thanks, Arthur. Appreciate it. That's so awesome having him on. He's so great. So we'll get more into our best bets of the day, which we are talking about the national championship game because we are both on the same sides. Before we do, a lot of football talk today. Let's break it up with the little B-ball, okay? Let's ball it out. NBA Morning Radar, college basketball, hoops picks. I don't even know what to call it. It's a segment that just involves everything all in one. So you want to talk about NBA Morning Radar first? You want to give out your college basketball pick?
Yeah, let's get into NBA very briefly. I'd be lying to you if I spent a lot of time capping the NBA this morning. There are 7 games. There is some movement to at least be, aware of. I think the total in this Bucks Hornets game is intriguing. Very high total to begin with, 234.5. It has ticked up a little bit this morning to 235. And these are teams that run fast. They're very fast pace numbers. Offensive rating, Charlotte second, Milwaukee seventh. Pace, Charlotte leads the league in pace. They have the fastest pace in the league, and the Bucks are eighth. So the numbers say this game is going to be played at a frenetic tempo. I would consider the over there, but the number is very high. So maybe this is a spot where you either watch and you maybe jump in live, or you wait to see if there's any player movement that maybe ticks the under total down a little bit. But I would definitely keep an eye on the Hornets Bucks over tonight. The other game I would keep an eye on tonight is the Celtics at home against the Pacers. That line has moved from 5.5 to 6.5, and I've seen the total drop from 215.5 down to 214. So favorite under would be the early morning movement there. And then I'll give you one more if you want a late night over. The Cavs and the Kings, that total has gone up from 218.5 to 220.5. Of course, we have talked about the Cavs this year. Not a very fast-moving team, 22nd in pace. Kings run a little bit quicker. They're 9th in pace, but ATS-wise, the Cavs have had a really good year. And, of course, the Kings have been one of those kind of up-and-down teams this season. But both aren't great offensively, so I'm a little bit surprised that that total has gone up 2 points, but that's the late-night West Coast over to keep an eye on in Sacramento.
For that Hornets-Bucks game, what I was going to say, I was trying to find an edge to that one. The only thing I would bet in that game is the over. The Charlotte Hornets, they've had 40-plus points in their last 2 games from beyond the arc. I mean, they're shooting the 3 ball so stinking well right now. And for me, the Bucks are they're missing a few too many players. Like, to bet the spread in that game or a money line, there's just too much that's unsure for me in that game. So I think in terms of offense for both teams, the over is what I would bet in that game. I'm not on that game currently. For the Indiana Pacers Boston Celtics game, the Celtics are basically completely healthy, and the Pacers are still not completely decimated by COVID at this point, but they're still missing quite a few guys with COVID. Again, this COVID protocol stuff, it's crazy. It's hard to know who's going to be playing, who's going to be coming back from the COVID protocols as well, because that's the thing is like energy, rhythm, chemistry of a team, lungs. I mean, these guys are coming back after sitting and not doing anything for the last 10 days. You just never know necessarily how they're going to play or how they're going to be when they come back from COVID protocol. So I stayed away from that one too. But if I were to bet today in the NBA, it would be that Bucks Hornets over. Both of the offenses are incredible. Charlotte's shooting the 3 ball so well, and Milwaukee's just a force offensively as well. So I like that. College basketball, I don't have any bets today for that, but you are on a game today, my friend. Tell us. Yeah,
you want to talk a little Southern Conference college basketball? Your favorite conference?
Tell me about it, Jared.
So 2 things. First of all, I will be, now that the NFL season is over and we only have 13 NFL games left to handicap this year compared to, the craziness of the early parts of the season, it's time to start turning the page and to really get invested. In my eyes, college basketball is the next championship up, the next championship on deck in about 2.5 months. So that will be the next sport that we fixate on as we go down the stretch of the regular season. And then, of course, into March, things get madness, as the cliche goes. So college basketball.
On sentence, Jared. As we go into March, things get madness.
The multiverse of madness, just like my favorite Marvel movies.
I want to hear it.
So you can expect at least 1 or 2 college basketball looks every night, because the only way that we start to get invested in these markets, the only way that we can start to absorb and be a sponge, is if we get in the middle of it and get in the muck and start putting our money at risk and start really, researching these teams, the teams that aren't necessarily the ones that you think we are going to be researching. But in March, I want to know about all 358 teams. I know that sounds crazy, because one of them is going to be Cinderella that we aren't talking about right now. We don't know who. We'll find out. Maybe it's one of these teams that we're talking about tonight. It's probably not going to be Western Carolina, who's awful. They're on the road tonight taking on East Tennessee State. Western Carolina, out of those 358 teams I talked about, 339th in defensive efficiency. Awful offensive or defensive team. Awful defensive team. One of the worst defensive teams in the country. East Tennessee State, not much better, 234th. So Western Carolina, I'm targeting the total in this game. Western Carolina 10-4 to the over this season, 4-1 in their last 5. During that stretch, they've given up totals of 85, 90, 98, and 85 points. I got the over here at 148.5. I think East Tennessee State at home puts up at least 80. And I think Western Carolina does their part and gets into this, mid-60s, high 60s, low 70s in order to hit this over. And that's my only college basketball play of the day, my only basketball period play of the day. Western Carolina, East Tennessee State, over 148.5. We're back in the points in the Southern Conference tonight.
I like it. I love it, actually. I absolutely love it. And we're talking a lot of college basketball tomorrow. You're not on the show. You need to give your brain a little rest.
I need a break after today. It has been a long week.
Yesterday was a day. Yesterday was a day for you. We're going to give you a rest tomorrow. You'll be back refreshed on Wednesday. But we are talking a lot of college basketball tomorrow. There's a big slate going on. So make sure to tune in for the show then. Okay, our best bets of the day in the Pickswise 3-star play of the day. First of all, hit me with Pickswise 3-star. What do we got?
Well, I want to talk about a little props because, first of all, Ricky Diamond, props to Ricky Diamond for picking a prop today on his 3-star play of the day. He is going with Bowers, the star tight end from Georgia, his over receiving yards prop at 67.5. I love that. I will add to it, though. So I like 2 props in tonight's game. We didn't talk about props a whole lot for tonight, but I do want to at least give a mention not only to Ricky's prop, which is a good one at 67.5 for Bowers, but I have 2. So I'm going to go with George Pickens, the other main wide receiver, receiving yards threat for the Georgia Bulldogs tonight. I got his receiving yards prop at 30.5. We're going to the over. He's less than a year removed from an ACL injury, just starting to get back into the mix. This is only going to be the 4th game he's played in this year. He had 261 yards in the final 2 games last year, including 7 for $135 in the Peach Bowl against Cincinnati and their incredible secondary of Sauce Gardner and Kobe Bryant. So this kid knows how to play big in big games. He had a 37-yard catch against Bama in the SEC title game, which would have hit this prop, period, just that one catch. He's getting healthier by the week. And we talked about it with Arthur. The Bama secondary is depleted. I think George Pickens, the veteran wide receiver on Georgia who's coming back from an ACL injury, getting healthier with each passing day. He's already now played in a couple games. And I think this is going to be his breakout tonight, over 30.5 yards for George Pickens. And we're going to go with the under on Brian Robinson's rushing yards. This number is 74.5. It's way too high. I found it over at Bet365. No running back has ran for over 69 yards against Georgia all season. So you're getting 74.5. That's a 5-yard cushion. Georgia's got the number one defense.
Deal breaker.
Exactly. Georgia's got the number one defense in the country. And game script, if Bama is behind, they will abandon the run at some point. And also, this isn't a great stat for you, but Georgia's the only team in the country that held Michigan to under 100 rushing yards this year. So that, their defense is, I think it's going to be a story tonight. So 2 props, George Pickens over 30.5 receiving yards, Brian Robinson under 74.5 rush yards, and of course, Ricky Diamond's prop, Bowers over 67.5 receiving yards. Props.
Yeah, I like it. And that leads us right into our best bet because I'm going to go first on this. We're on the same exact game, Georgia money line minus 136. My thing is it's hard to beat a good team once. It's really, really hard to beat a good team twice. And since the beginning, I've leaned Georgia spread since the beginning, but I really like Georgia money line in the spot. They're going to look and find probably more ways to get pressure on Bryce Young. The last game was the only time all season that Georgia's defense didn't record a sack. Bama's O-line just played incredible. I think that Georgia's going to come into this game with the exact same game plan that they came into the game against Michigan with. I think they're just going to be able to show a little bit more of those vanilla zone coverage. They're going to try to keep Jamison Williams in front, limit his big plays, and that's going to force Bama to run more RPO stuff, take away the passing option, force Bama to run right into the strength of Georgia's defense. And on the other side, Bama's defense did a really good job of confusing Stetson Bennett last time they played. He threw 2 interceptions. I just don't think Georgia will be able to put as much on Stetson's plate this game. He's not the guy you want throwing 40 times a game, even though I think he hasn't necessarily gotten enough credit from fans. But I think Georgia's coming into this game with the exact same game plan that they went into the college football playoff semis against Michigan. They're going to really be able to take advantage of Bama here in this spot. And I think they're going to force Bama to run the ball. And I think they're going to run right into the heart of Georgia's defense. They're going to shut them down. I think they'll allow less than 100 rushing yards too. So I have a good feeling about Georgia money line in this one. But please back my case, Jared, because I know you're on the same side as me.
Yeah, so to me, the biggest question you have to ask yourself if you're out there in the Pickswise Nation verse today, do you bet Georgia on the money line or do you bet Georgia on the spread? Most of the time, I would not advise betting a team on the money line that's less than a 3-point favorite. But as we discussed with Arthur and as I've noticed and some other really smart, sharp handicappers have pointed out to me this week and have kind of made it very clear, you are getting a massive, not a massive, but you are getting 10, 15 cent discount on the money line this week because everybody is taking the Bama money line instead of the spread.
Plus money,
I'm seeing 90% of the handle on the Bama money line, but I'm only seeing 50. It's about even splits on the spread. So all of that Bama money on the money line is decreasing the odds, making them shorter. And then the natural reaction to that is the Georgia money line is skewed to the other side, and you are getting a discount at minus 135, minus 140. A 3-point favorite in the traditional vacuum of NFL odds, college football odds, is around a minus 150 money line. Well, it's not that. It's significantly shorter. So you're getting a discount before we even get into the handicap of the game. Lauren made a very smart point about what is going to happen with Georgia's defense in this game, how they are going to play better and play a little bit more, I guess, concise, compact against what is an Alabama offense that's a little bit hamstrung without their, I think, their best weapon, John Mechie. And what you have to look for on the other side of the ball with Alabama's defense against Stetson Bennett, we talked about the cornerback situation for Alabama being a little bit thin. And that is going to turn Stetson Bennett, I think, into a more aggressive passer deep down the field. We talked about Pickens. We talked about Bowers. Then the Georgia running game becomes a factor because if you have to play deeper in the secondary to account for some, misgivings by some younger corners, well, then that opens up the running game for Georgia. And I think that makes things very difficult for Alabama to defend tonight. And then you have to think about Bryce Young, who played unbelievable, out of his mind in the first game, 400 yards passing, arguably the best game of his career. And Bill O'Brien in the booth called the best offensive game plan probably in his entire coaching life, maybe. So can you expect that kind of perfection and precision from Alabama's offense the second time around against what is the best defense in the country? I am going to say no. I think you saw the peak of Alabama's offense in the SEC title game. I think they come back and regress just slightly. But even a slight regression tonight gives Georgia the opportunity to take control of this game early, and it turns Alabama into a one-dimensional team. It takes away their great running back, Brian Robinson, and it makes Bryce Young beat them. And I think that's a recipe for Georgia to win this game. The Bulldogs are going to win the national title tonight. I put 2 units on Georgia money line.
Ooh,
this is a 2-unit bet on Georgia money line. Just my second 2-unit bet of the college football bowl season. The first one was Georgia 2 weeks ago or a week ago, and it also hit. So hopefully we get a second winner on the Bulldogs tonight. But it should be a really fun game. Honestly, this game can go either direction. 5 to 10 plays on third downs, on fourth downs in one way. Could tilt it in either way. I can make a case for Bama too, but I'm just going with Georgia.
Here's the thing. One more point on that with Bryce Young is Bama's O-line played out of this world. Again, it was the only time that Georgia's defense didn't record a sack all season. He was sacked 7 times the week before that against Auburn. So I think Bama was just able to identify and adjust where Georgia's pressure was coming from. But you look at Bama's O-line in this game. Their right guard, he was injured in the first quarter of the Cotton Bowl, didn't return. He is expected to play tonight. I really suck at saying his name, Emil Ikiyor, whatever.
That's all on you. I don't even go
he
down
might not
that
be
road.
at 100% in this game. And then the right tackle, Chris Owens, also expected to be available after injuring his foot in the fourth quarter versus Cincy. So he might not be at 100%. So I don't think the O-line's going to be able to hold Georgia's defense as well as they did in the SEC championship game when they were at 100% health-wise too. Which Bryce Young was able to have that game because his O-line played so well in front of him. Again, it was Bryce Young's talent, but hand in hand, O-line, their performance, I don't think the O-line is going to be performing as well because they're not 100% in this game after a couple injuries last week. So food for thought. Georgia's going to win the national championship tonight. It's going to be a really exciting game. And that's it for us today. Find us on the Pickswise YouTube channel. Go to pickswise.com. Follow us on Twitter, Jared Smith. Enjoy your day off tomorrow, Jared. You deserve it. Let your mind be mush, my friend. Enjoy the game.
Nobody
tonight.
texts me for 24 hours.
I won't even, you
Looking
don't
at you,
even
Jack.
text me, bro. You don't even exist now the next 24 hours.
No. I'm sure we'll talk for the game tonight, but let's just leave it at this. From now, when we get off the air until 8:00 tonight, I don't exist. I am a ghost.
Go take a Peloton ride, go on a walk, eat some junk food. Just live your life.
I ate plenty of junk food yesterday.
All right. We'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll see you, Jared, Wednesday. Best of luck, everybody. Let's get it. Let's bet it.